Well, hello there. You're listening to the Sort Yourself Out podcast. Today, I'm discussing how to live an abundant life with abundance coach Teresa Romain. I'm your host, Janine Hunt, natural health therapist for over 30 years, hypnotherapist, lifelong learner, and student of the Ageless Wisdom. Here on the Sort Yourself Out podcast and in my Better Than Happy Zone membership, I teach powerful top-down techniques and practices so that you can master your mind and emotions, free yourself of what's holding you back, expand your consciousness, and nourish your soul. So let's get started. Well, hello there, and thank you so much for joining me today. I know you're going to love this episode because today I'm joined by Teresa Romain, and she is going to help us to live a more abundant life. Teresa has been an abundance coach for nearly 25 years, and she is a champion for women who experience scarcity around money. Now, this may sound familiar, that no matter what you do or how much you make or how successful you seem to others, it's still not enough. So Teresa supports people to heal the divide between their relationship with money and God, spirit, or the divine, whatever you call it, so that they can fully and freely live the unique lives they were created to live with all the resources they need. Now that sounds really good, right? So let's not wait any longer. Let's get straight into my conversation with Teresa Romain. Hi, Teresa. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Janine, and thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Well, I'm really glad to have you here as a guest on the podcast because I know that abundance is an area that so many people struggle with, and we all want to lead abundant lives. And yet we've got so many hangups about it, and especially about money. Now, you've told me that for the people that you work with, that their primary relationship with money is scarcity. So tell us more about what you mean by that scarcity.
Sure. Yeah. Their primary relationship with money is one of scarcity, even though what they're trying to have is an abundant relationship with money. The real clue that you have a scarcity-based relationship with money is when you experiencing fear around money. Fear in many forms, including guilt or shame around money. Fear of not having enough money. And that can come from the reality of you're drowning in debt, or you're living paycheck to paycheck, or you lost your job. And that's the obvious forms of scarcity. My bank account shows I don't have enough money. But the less obvious ones are people who are doing well financially. Maybe they don't have debt. Maybe they have a nice income. And yet they feel guilty if they spend money, especially on themselves. They're afraid to spend money. They're still afraid they won't have enough in the future. So it keeps them from really enjoying life as it is right now, enjoying the money they have. And then ultimately, there are lots of people who are experiencing scarcity because their lives are, their fear around money is so strong that they'll stay in jobs or businesses they hate, that burn them out, that are not good for their soul or their well-being, because they need the money. And they keep waiting until they have this magical enough money to finally say yes to like what their soul's calling them to. That's kind of the full spectrum of how scarcity can show up around money.
Now, I've heard you say as well that the scarcity that people experience is actually a gift. Now, many would probably beg to differ with that.
Oh,
So that it's a gift, but people just don't realize it. So what do you mean by that?
Well, and I can relate to not thinking of it as a gift, because God knows I've experienced a lot of scarcity in my life around money, but it's a gift in much the same way that a headache is a gift. Now, again, I know most people in Western medicine, we don't think of a headache as a gift. We think of it as a pain, as an inconvenience, as like our body's not doing what we want it to do. And so what most people in Western medicine do is they try and get rid of the headache by taking an aspirin or an ibuprofen, and it works temporarily, but then the headache comes back, because you can take painkillers and you can take ibuprofen and you can take aspirin, and it can temporarily get rid of the headache, so you can go on doing what you have to do, but it's not addressing what's causing the headache. And I know you're familiar with natural holistic medicine, as am I. And in that mindset, the headache is a symptom, and it's a mild symptom that's really a gift, because it's your body's way of saying there's something off here. There's a toxin, there's an imbalance, there's a nutrient we need. And if you can address that deeper symptom, not only does the headache go away permanently, your overall well-being improves and your health. And in many respects, our scarcity around money, though it is really the symptom, that is really an invitation to go back and do the deeper work, go inside. What's the deeper work that has us heal limiting beliefs, wounded beliefs we have of ourselves? An identity of ourselves is not enough that's based on what we do or what we have. It's really our souls calling us back to remember the truth of who we are and whose we are and why we're here. And it's not just to make money.
Yeah, that's, excuse me, that's really important. And that relates to so many different things about life, how we're treating the symptom. We need to go deeper within and look at the cause and get the meaning, the significance of what's in there. We learn and grow by experiencing those uncomfortable things, which most of us don't really want to go through.
Absolutely.
They are little gems that lead us on our way and lead us to greater well-being ultimately.
Exactly. And that's what I think, whatever's showing up in forms of scarcity around money, that's the gift of it. It's the invitation back into that work and that healing.
So for many people who want to experience more abundance with money, and also just more generally in other areas in their lives, what really stops us? You touched on it somewhat, but there are many of us out there who are reading all the books and taking the seminars and studying the law of attraction, and God knows there's no shortage of that stuff out there. But, we're still not experiencing all of that abundance that we really want to have in our lives. So what stops us from getting there?
Oh, gosh, we could talk forever about that. But bottom line, I'm with you. I've been an abundance coach for 25 plus years. And the first 20 years, I was doing that. I was drinking that Kool-Aid. I was singing that song. I was doing the law of attraction. I was teaching people how to get out of debt. I was doing all of that. And it worked to a degree. But yet, no matter how much money they made, or if they got out of debt or whatever, somehow there was still, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. Like, it wasn't abundant enough. How's that for an oxymoron? And so finally, I was like, what's going on here? And over the past 5 years, what I began to realize that I think is not being addressed in all of that is there is an invisible, unnamed archetype of scarcity that our whole world is based on. An archetype is a collective unconscious belief that's present in all of our psyches. And that's kind of like the operating system on a computer. It's the operating system of our world. It's the operating system of the traditional money management systems. It's even the operating system in many respects of how most people understand the law of attraction. It's like how to go from not enough to abundance. Let me do these things. I like to think of the archetype of scarcity as being like the equivalent of wearing red lens glasses. Like, everybody's wearing red lens glasses. So everything looks red to everybody. So everything we do in our lives is in reaction to this belief we have that it's red or not enough. So we think we have to do this and we have to do this to do this. But if we keep those red lens, not enough glasses on our face, there is no amount of more or anything we do that's ever going to be enough. And what oftentimes happens with all of those practices, which are very powerful, is what we don't realize is it's like putting green glasses on top of red glasses. The first work we have to do is expose that invisible archetype of scarcity, address that, take the red glasses off. And when you do that, all that other stuff starts to work too. So that's the piece that I think most people are missing. They're going deep, but they're not going to that deep, deep, deep level, which goes to our perception of ourselves, our perception of the world, and our subconscious understanding of God's source, the one who created this world, usually as separate, which means we got to do this. It's up to us. And that's going to create scarcity too, and a heck of a lot of fear.
Yeah. And I want to bring in something that I think so many of us as spiritual people can relate to. And I know you address this specifically, and that really is that idea that money itself is not spiritual, or wanting money is not spiritual, or that money is dirty. And, it's something that I have certainly gone through in my life. And I've been through phases where I'd think, oh no, I can't spend that 60 euros on a pair of shoes. There are starving children in the world, and we are just, like you say, we're just bathed in this idea from birth that there's not enough. And if I have something, then the other person doesn't, and we're taking it away from them. And there are so many limiting beliefs swimming around about money.
I like to think of it as, the archetype of scarcity kind of has us believe that, life is like a giant game of musical chairs. Did you play musical chairs when you were a kid?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of any game when I was a kid that as soon as it was announced musical chairs, like you instantly get tense, because it's set up that there's not enough chairs for everyone, and there never will be, which means you either have to get really competitive and aggressive and whatever, which is kind of what I did, or you'd be like my friend Rosie and you're just like, forget it, I just don't want to play, neither of which is abundance. But what we don't realize is that's not the game that we were created to play. That's not the way the world, the universe is set up. That's a man-made construct. And we see it in our economics. The definition of that is all about scarce resources. And I'm not saying there are limits, but limits is not the same as scarcity. In fact, when we don't honor natural limits and healthy limits, we usually create scarcity unnecessarily. So yeah, we weren't born to play musical chairs. That's not the game we're here to play.
Yeah.
Like what if the game we're here to play includes a chair for everyone?
Nice. And that sense of competition I see as being something that's just kind of another wrong archetype that we've got going in the world. It doesn't really help us to live out that idea that many of us believe in, that we are all one and that we're here to help each other and to become less separative, not more, and competition leads to greater separation usually. And that feeling of I've got to get one over on him. And
yep. And all those behaviors are in reaction to scarcity, and they keep us separated from the truth of who we are, because we think we are what we do, and we are what we have, and we are like that and the other thing. And that's part of that journey back to the healing of our souls that money really is a great catalyst for.
Yeah. And I think it's a wonderful idea for all of us spiritual people to be really working through this stuff. So that's why another reason I'm really glad to have you on today, because the world needs money in the hands of some spiritual people who aren't necessarily going to be out buying yachts and things like that with it, but putting it to good use in the world as well, to make some changes. I mean, I look around and I can't believe that here we are in 2021. And do you remember back in 1985, Bob Geldof was trying to feed the starving children in Africa. And here we are all these years later, and we have still not addressed hunger in the world.
Yep. That's what I was talking about. what people don't understand is that the divine, what I call the archetype of abundance, the divine archetype of abundance, the way the world is designed, our universe, is there's a wholeness to it. And that wholeness includes both scarcity as lack, limitation, and abundance as plentiful supply. But like I was saying, when some of us don't honor natural healthy limits, we create and perpetuate scarcity for ourselves and for others. So one of the things that a lot of people especially of the American dream version of abundance or the law of attraction, they think limits is scarcity. No, limits is oftentimes what really fuels growth. In my garden, I prune my basil plant, and that's what helps it grow more vibrant.
Yeah.
And when we're in that archetype of scarcity, and we don't want limits. We just want to have enough money so I never have to think about money again. I want to be able to do whatever I want. That's also not what we're created for either. Yeah. And that's how we try and prove our worth and all that. But we're going down a rabbit hole. Probably we'll have to save that for another interview.
Yeah. I just wanted to say one thing about that, though. In the Ageless Wisdom, there is an aphorism that says, to he who gives shall be given.
Yes.
So it's not all about just getting stuff, is it? When we have abundance, I think it's imperative that we share it.
Absolutely. And if we don't, we actually create scarcity for ourselves. And I take that ageless wisdom, which is true, but then a lot of people will use it. Oh, well, let me give so I can get. And that's not what it is. So I always go back. It's like, to he who gives is given, but to he who gives already has been given.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, you know what? I got
that. The first movement in life is we're given to and we receive.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not the original source. Let me give so I can get. No, we're given to. And because of that, we give. And then we're given to again. Yeah. Like that. But
and that's the bit I left out, actually. The saying is actually, to he who gives shall be given so that he may give again.
Yes. Yeah. That's the cycle of abundance.
Yeah.
And our scarcity fears of not enough and all that is what has us like, I can't. So I always go back to like the breath, we're given oxygen. Speaking of which, those people who have the spiritual who think money is bad, money is evil, it's a life-giving resource. It's a resource designed to support life here in the world. And notice how we don't say oxygen is bad. It's wrong to want oxygen. We don't do that. It's no different than oxygen. Oxygen is available. We breathe it in because it gives us life. Thank God our bodies are hardwired to know exactly how to use it, distribute it, etc., to keep us alive. Because if our heads got in with it, oh my gosh, we'd all be walking around blue because we'd think we have to hold on to it. What if it's not going to be there again? And then our bodies release the excess, the carbon dioxide that gives life to the world around us, like plants and trees, who then give off oxygen. There's the cycle.
It's a beautiful cycle, isn't it? And I can't imagine how people can look at some of these amazing things that happen in the world and not think that there is some beautiful design taking place here.
Absolutely.
And just say, oh, it's all random. It just kind of happened.
Yep. And the moment we hold our breath because either I'm not going to let go or I don't deserve to receive any more oxygen, not only have we created scarcity for ourselves, we've perpetuated it for others because we've blocked the flow. We fought that design.
Yeah. Yeah. So many of us think that we need to just work harder and make more and save more, and that is going to be the solution to scarcity. But it's not really, is it? What is the solution?
Well, the real solution to scarcity is accepting scarcity and recognizing that abundance is not the opposite of scarcity. What has that not work is we think of scarcity as not enough. And so the solution to not enough is, well, I got to do more. I got to work harder. And then I'm going to get to abundance. So it's like abundance is this destination to get to. It's this place we arrive at. And if we just have enough, do enough, make enough, we can go from less or not enough to plenty. That's abundance. That just keeps us in this perpetual cycle of always pursuing more, usually getting out of balance. So we have less of other things, or we try and spend less money thinking that will finally get us more. It's the wrong game. So I think the most important thing is we have to redefine what we mean by abundance, and have abundance be able to include both. And so the definition that was divinely given to me a few years ago is that abundance is knowing, not in our heads, but in our bodies, in our beings, that we are part of something bigger than us and our individual efforts and lives. And in that being part of something bigger, in that connection, in that oneness, we have access to all that we need. That makes abundance an internal experience first, that then you get to express outward in your choices and actions. And that's not dependent upon how much money you have or how not. That doesn't mean you have to make more or whatever. It changes. It's the different game. It's no longer a game of how do I get my chair because there's not enough. It's the game of we're part of something bigger. And there's a chair for all. Now, I have a part to play in that. I have a part to play in that. I have a part to play in that. What's that part? Let me focus on that and learn to use the resources that are available to me in ways that support life and well-being and growth for me and for the larger world in which I live.
Nice.
That's going to change, because that definition, when it came through, I tried to poke holes at it. It's not an individual experience of abundance. You notice it was a we, that's part of the something bigger. So and so when we make it an individual, it means I am. Nope, that's already, now you're back into separation instead of we. And in that collective and in that connection, we really do have access to all that we need. The question is, are we accessing it? Are we utilizing it in ways that truly support life, growth, and healing for all? And are we letting go and sharing it to support that something bigger?
That's really nice, because I think so much of the stuff that people learn today about abundance and law of attraction, it is very self-focused.
Yes.
It's all about self-interest.
Yes.
And it really saddens me.
Yeah. Abundance is not a solo sport. It is not an individual thing. I look at nature as the muse for what abundance is. We grow sunflowers. Okay. Those sunflowers cannot grow and blossom into the bright yellow flowers that they're meant to be by themselves. They need water. They need sunshine, but they also need the bees who pollinate them. There's no such thing as solo abundance. It's all interdependent. We are part of something bigger.
Yeah. And also as individual or individualized spiritual beings that are part of the greater whole.
Yes.
Which can also be called all that is.
Yes.
We have access to all that is. We are just little fragments of all that is. We have all of that within ourselves.
Yes.
And a lot of it is about shifting the mindset and allowing ourselves to accept that part of ourselves, because many of us will just say, oh no, I couldn't possibly, many of us tiptoe around this for years, feeling like we're not good enough. And I know I've done it for many years as well myself, where you know intellectually, yes, I am spirit here in a body having this experience of this lifetime. Yet we fail to fully take on board that spirithood and what it really signifies.
Yes. And I'm going to add to that. And when I say, that connection, we have access to all that we need. That's for this moment. I'm not saying I've got access for all that I need for the next 20 years, but I can know that when I get to the next moment, I will have access to what I need for that moment. Now, sometimes what I need in a certain moment may not be what I think I need or what I want, but clearly I've had access to all that I need. And so have you, because we're still here.
And that is a funny way that life throws things at us, that we don't necessarily get what we want, but we get what we need.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the ways actually that the scarcity can be a gift, because we could be going down a totally wrong path or thinking I need this or whatever, but there is a larger intelligence at work
Yes.
that is maybe handing us something that's way more beneficial to us in the long run, or better for our growth.
Yes.
Or,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So what do you think about people who choose to get out of the rat race by downsizing and living simply? I love the idea of living simply. There's a phrase I like called live simply so that others may simply live. And that might go a bit against an abundance mindset for a lot of people. Is that scarcity?
It depends. I can't answer that. It's going to depend upon the motivation. So if you're one of those people who have grown up spiritual, in a spiritual orientation where money is bad and, money is evil and all that sort of stuff, and so you live simply for that reason, probably not abundance. Okay. If you're living simply out of your commitment, like simply does not mean starving yourself. So I sometimes think of money like water, rain, etc., for plants and nature. So a desert cactus doesn't need a lot of water. A cypress tree in a swamp needs a lot of water. You could say the cactus lives simply, but it still makes sure but it still needs to have the water it needs to become the full cactus it's meant to be. If a cypress tree says, oh, I should live simply and go with less water like the cactus, that's not abundance, because it's not allowing itself to have all that it needs to be the fullest expression of what it was created to be. So ultimately, it comes back to why. What's the motivation underneath it? And oftentimes people live simply out of a somehow worthlessness, money is bad, or even a superiority, which is worthlessness in disguise. Look at how simply I live. I get to be better than those greedy whatever type, than that greedy cypress tree. No, the cypress tree isn't greedy. Now, I'm not saying there's not greed in our world. There is, but again, that's where it has to be, who am I? What am I meant to be?
So, Teresa, I believe that you have a gift to offer our listeners. So why don't you tell us a bit more about that, and also about where people can learn more about what you do and find you online?
Sure, I'd love to. So I've already shared a little bit about the new definition of abundance that really is the foundation for getting out of this archetype, this cycle of scarcity, individually and collectively. So I've created a free video where you get a little bit more about that, an experience of that, plus another free video that is kind of addresses the bottom line thing that has us not access what's available to us. And then in a third free video, I really go into the role money does play in living a life of abundance, but it's not about the money. And so those three videos you can access, just go sign up for them. At my website, there's a special page I created. So it's teresaromain.com/podcast gift. Now, please note, Teresa doesn't have an H in it. I got the H knocked out of me a long time ago. If you put an H in it, you're going to go to some romance writer's site. That's not me. And Romain without an E. We eat a lot of the romaine lettuce, but that's not how you spell our name. So yeah, so those three videos, I think will just take what we've talked about and put some more meat on the bones for people.
Great. I will put links in the show notes about all of that as well. So thanks very much for offering that. That's great.
And you can find me on Facebook too. That's about the only social media place I hang out pretty regularly. So you can find me on Facebook as well.
Okay. I'll put those links in the show notes. So Teresa, I really want to thank you for joining me here today. It's been a real pleasure talking with you. And I really think it's very important, the work you do in helping people to approach that spiritual aspect and enable them to be empowered to have more money and to use it in the world. I think we need that these days.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
That's great. So thanks a lot, and hopefully have you back again one day, because I know there's a lot more that we can get into.
I think we could go on and on and on for sure.
And this is just a topic that people cannot get enough of. So we'll definitely do that.
A little pun there. This is a topic people can't get enough of.
Yeah. Yes, they can.
That's a good not enough. I think that's a good not enough.
Yeah. All right, Teresa, thanks very much.
Thank you.
So there it is, my friend. I hope you've enjoyed my conversation with Teresa Romain. So much good stuff. So once again, you can find Teresa online at teresaromain.com, and I'll put the links to her site and her freebie in the show notes. And if you're up for some more inspiration and ready to sort yourself out, don't forget to check out my Better Than Happy Zone membership that is brimming full of trainings, techniques, and practices to help you take your well-being to the next level. And yes, I've got stuff in there about abundance as well. So have a look at that at betterthanhappyzone.com. And for the moment, you can sign up for $1 little wee dollar. So you've got so much to gain and nothing to lose. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Take care, and I'll see you next week. Thanks so much for listening and for sharing this podcast, and for subscribing and leaving me a lovely 5-star review on iTunes. Those things really help to get the podcast out there so that it can serve more people. If you have any questions or would like me to address a certain topic, I'd love to hear from you. You can email me at info@theinspirationcloud.com. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.